What happened when an undercover CEO witnessed a struggling woman being turned away at his own bus depot? You're about to find out in a story that will challenge your view on leadership, compassion, and second chances. Hello to our incredible audience. You're thoughtful, empathetic, and exactly where you need to be today. In this video, we follow a CEO who trades his title for a mop and a name tag, only to uncover a truth that changes everything. What he saw led to more than just policy changes. It sparked a transformation from the inside out. Let's begin. The morning buzz of the city echoed outside Alec Donovan's office window, but his thoughts were elsewhere. As the founder and CEO of MetroLine Transit, he had built the company from a single route into a citywide network meant to serve everyone, from business professionals to seniors on fixed incomes. It was supposed to be more than just transportation. It was meant to be a lifeline. But lately, something has changed. A steady stream of complaints had reached Alec's desk. Elderly riders being rushed, disabled passengers left waiting in the rain, and low-income individuals humiliated for not having exact change. What stung most was that the behavior seemed to be coming from within his own team. The drivers, the dispatchers, even the front desk. Alec had always prided himself on hiring people who understood the value of service and respect. But now he feared that somewhere along the way the heart of MetroLine had gotten lost. He could have sent HR or launched an internal audit, but he knew neither would show him the truth. Real culture wasn't written in reports, it was lived on the depot floor. So Alec made a decision. He would step out of the office and into the shadows. Dressing in plain work clothes and adopting the identity of a newly hired cleaner, he would enter the busiest depot in the system unnoticed. No name tag, no executive badge, no warning. He wanted to see it all with his own eyes, not as a CEO, but as someone invisible. Because if MetroLine was failing its most vulnerable passengers, he needed to know not just how, but why. And the only way to fix it was to start where the problems truly began. The next morning, Alec arrived at the Northside Depot dressed in a faded gray hoodie, steel-toed boots, and a fluorescent safety vest. Standard uniform for cleaning crew and trainees. No one gave him a second glance as he signed in under the alias L&D and was handed a mop and a clipboard. The depot buzzed with early morning energy, drivers reviewing their routes, dispatchers calling out schedules, mechanics inspecting buses. But beneath the movement, Alec sensed something colder, something transactional. That feeling solidified when he met Janelle Price, the station's lead dispatcher. She was sharp-tongued and impeccably dressed, her tone clipped and her patience thin. "If you're late, don't bother showing up. We don't have time to babysit," she said flatly during the team briefing. Alec watched as her eyes skimmed over employees like she was sizing up their worth. A rider approached the front counter to ask a question, and Janelle barely looked up before dismissing him with a wave. No smile, no courtesy, just motion and control. In contrast, Curtis Bennett, a gray-bearded veteran bus driver, gave Alec a warm nod as he passed by, pausing to crack a quiet joke with a nervous new recruit. There was heart here, somewhere beneath the pressure and protocol. But Alec could see the divide clearly, a culture that rewarded speed and scorned empathy. Junior staff didn't challenge Janelle, they avoided her, and riders who looked like they didn't belong were treated like obstacles. Alec jotted down silent notes between sweeping the floor and emptying trash bins. He wasn't ready to act yet, not until he understood the full picture. But already he knew one thing: something in this depot had gone very wrong. It was just past noon when the catalyst arrived. The depot's waiting area had quieted, most buses out en route, when a woman entered. Her clothes worn but clean, her shoulders tense as if bracing for rejection. Rosa Alvarez looked to be in her early 30s, with tired eyes and a folder clutched tightly in one hand. She approached the counter where Janelle stood, flipping through a manifest sheet. "Excuse me," Rosa said softly. "I'm supposed to be at a job interview across town, but I don't have fare today. Is there any way I could still ride?" For a moment, there was silence. Then Janelle scoffed, not bothering to conceal her irritation. "We're not a charity, sweetheart. No pass, no ride." Rosa flushed, her voice faltering. "I just need a break. I promise I can pay it back." "Not my problem," Janelle snapped. If we gave out free rides to every sob story, we'd be out of business." Alec, who had been mopping nearby, froze mid-motion. Rosa stood there for a few seconds longer, hope draining from her face, before she turned slowly toward the exit. Alec's instincts screamed at him to stop her, and he did. Stepping outside after her, he called gently, "Miss?" Rosa turned, eyes wary. Alec reached into his pocket and handed her a ride voucher he had taken from the bulletin board earlier. "Here," he said quietly. "Don't miss your interview." Rosa blinked, then smiled with watery gratitude. "Thank you. Thank you so much." Alec nodded, watching as she disappeared toward the next departing bus. Back inside, he glanced at Janelle, who had already moved on, her expression unreadable. But Alec's mind was clear. That moment had shown him everything. The system was broken, and he was going to fix it. Later that afternoon, while the depot buzz had settled into a lull between shifts, Alec found himself assigned to clean the lounge area where drivers took their breaks. It was there he finally struck up a deeper conversation with Curtis Bennett, who was sipping coffee and flipping through a weathered paperback. Curtis had a calm presence, the kind that didn't demand attention but quietly commanded respect. Alec, staying in character, casually brought up what had happened with Rosa earlier. Curtis's expression tightened. "Yeah," he said, lowering his voice. "That wasn't the first time. Janelle's been like that for a while now." Alec leaned in. "Has anyone said anything to management?" Curtis gave a humorless chuckle. "Management?" he echoed. "They love her. Routes run on time, barely any complaints on paper, but ask any driver here and they'll tell you, if you're not clean, on time, or dressed a certain way, you're a problem to her." Alec nodded slowly, understanding that what he had witnessed wasn't a one-off. It was systemic. Why haven't more people spoken up? Curtis glanced toward the hall, then back. Because they're tired. Most of the younger guys are afraid to rock the boat, and people like me, we've tried. Nothing changes. So we just keep our heads down and try to do right when we can. Alec sat with that for a moment. The truth wasn't just in Janelle's sharpness, it was in everyone else's silence. This wasn't about one bad employee. It was about a culture that allowed coldness to thrive and kindness to be buried under metrics. Alec thanked Curtis quietly and returned to his duties, mop in hand, heart heavier than before. He had the information he needed. Now it was time to act and show everyone what real leadership looked like. 2 days later, the tension in the depot finally cracked. The afternoon rush had just begun when an elderly man with a slight limp shuffled in from the sidewalk, clutching a folded schedule in his hands. Alec noticed him right away. Mr. Lin hesitated near the counter, trying to read the tiny print with squinting eyes. "I'm not sure which bus goes to St. Joseph's," he asked politely. Janelle didn't even look up from her screen. "There's a kiosk for that. I'm busy." He fumbled with the paper, clearly flustered. One of the new drivers, a soft-spoken young man, stepped forward to help, but Janelle cut in sharply. "Don't waste time with him. We've got real customers waiting." That was it. Alec dropped the rag he was holding and stepped forward. "He asked for help," Alec said, voice calm but firm. Janelle turned, eyebrows raised. "Who were you to tell me how to run this station?" The room stilled. Several employees turned to watch. Alec took a breath, then reached into his jacket and pulled out his badge, the one no one had seen until now. "My name is Alec Donovan," he said evenly. "I'm the founder and CEO of MetroLine Transit." Janelle's face was drained of color. For a beat no one spoke, then murmurs rippled through the room. Curtis, watching from near the back, gave a subtle nod. Alec continued, "And what I've seen this week, what I saw just now, is the opposite of everything this company was built on." Janelle tried to stammer a response, but Alec cut her off. "We'll talk, privately, but understand this, your position here is not more important than a man's dignity." With that, Alec turned to Mr. Lin and gently guided him toward the information board. It was time for real consequences, and a long overdue reset. The following morning, the depot's small conference room felt unusually quiet as Janelle sat stiffly across the table from Alec, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Curtis stood nearby, arms folded, silent but present. Alec didn't waste time. "I need to understand," he began, voice calm but resolute. "Why did you treat Rosa the way you did, and Mr. Lin?" Janelle's jaw tightened. I was following protocol, she said defensively. We get people coming in all the time, trying to get free rides, wasting time. If we let that slide, it sets a precedent. Alec leaned forward. And what precedent are we setting when we make struggling people feel worthless? When do we turn public service into private judgment? Janelle huffed. I've kept this depot running smoother than any other. Our on-time reports are the best in the system. Alec nodded slowly. But at what cost, he asked. Efficiency doesn't mean anything if we lose our humanity. MetroLine wasn't built to serve the lucky few. It was built to serve everyone. And you failed at that. Janelle looked away, shame flickering in her eyes. I didn't mean to. I'm not here to weigh your intentions, Alec interrupted gently. I'm here to hold you accountable for your actions. For a long moment, silence settled over the room. Then Alec said, I should let you go, but I believe in second chances. If you're willing to learn, really learn, what this place stands for, I'm offering you one shot. He turned to Curtis. You're going to train her. She follows your lead and she earns back the respect she lost. Curtis raised an eyebrow, but nodded. Janelle swallowed hard and nodded too. The path wouldn't be easy, but at least now she had one. Janelle's first few days shadowing Curtis were a humbling experience. Gone were her clipped commands and quick dismissals. Now she was observing a man who knew every passenger by name and treated each with quiet dignity. Curtis didn't just drive, he connected. He asked about an elderly woman's recovery after surgery, helped a young man in a wheelchair board safely, and even waited an extra minute when he saw a teenager sprinting toward the stop. Janelle, clipboard in hand, watched in silence. At first it grated on her, the delays, the small talk, the emotional labor. Why waste time on people who won't even say thank you, she muttered under her breath one morning. Curtis simply smiled. Because someone has to show them they matter, especially when the world doesn't. Those words stayed with her. Slowly, Janelle began greeting passengers instead of avoiding eye contact. She started offering directions instead of pointing to signs. And one rainy afternoon, when a mother with a crying toddler boarded the bus, soaked and flustered, Janelle instinctively handed the child a napkin from her own bag and said, "Take your time." The woman's grateful smile startled her. Not because it was rare, but because it felt good. For the first time, kindness didn't feel like a disruption to the work. It was work. Even staff around the depot noticed the shift. The once intimidating dispatcher now lingered in conversations, asked younger employees how their day was going, and, most surprisingly, began helping with customer service training. It wasn't a dramatic transformation overnight, but it was real, and it was growing. For Janelle, the job had finally started to mean something again, not just tasks to manage, but people to serve. One crisp morning before her shift, Janelle stood beside the depot coffee machine, staring into her cup as if it might offer answers. I need to find her, she said quietly to Curtis, who was organizing route cards nearby. Rosa, the woman I turned away. I can't move on until I make it right. Curtis studied her for a moment, then nodded. I might know where to start, he said, scribbling down the name of a nearby community outreach center. That afternoon, Janelle and Alec drove across town, to the modest building tucked between a laundromat and a church. Inside, a few women gathered around folding tables, sipping tea and chatting softly. One of the volunteers, after a brief explanation, led them to a quiet corner where Rosa sat reading a job board flyer. Her eyes widened when she saw them. You came all this way? She asked, surprised. I didn't think I'd ever see you again. Janelle stepped forward, nerves in her chest like static. Rosa, I was wrong. That day at the counter, I treated you like you didn't belong. And I'm sorry. Rosa hesitated, then gave a small nod. I appreciate that, she said, her voice gentle. Alec added, we want to do more than apologize. If you're still looking for work, there's a position at our front office, part-time to start, with full training and benefits. Rosa's hand trembled slightly as she took the card Alec offered. I don't know what to say, she whispered. You don't have to say anything, Janelle replied, her voice steady now. Just let us show you that this place is changing, because of you. And in that moment, surrounded by fluorescent lights and second chances, Rosa's eyes filled with something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The transformation didn't happen overnight, but it was undeniable. Within weeks of Rosa's visit, MetroLine Transit began to feel different, warmer, more human. Alec officially launched the Compassion Route initiative, introducing flexible fare waivers for passengers in need, and unveiling the Metro Kindness Fund, a donation-based program where staff and riders could contribute to help cover rides for those facing hardship. Posters appeared in break rooms and bus stops, not about efficiency but about empathy. Every rider has a story. Let's make it a dignified one. Janelle, once the face of rigidity, now led weekly orientation sessions for new hires, sharing her own journey with humility. She spoke openly about the day she turned Rosa away and how it changed everything. Curtis was honored during an employee appreciation ceremony for his years of patient service and appointed as the depot's new community engagement coordinator. Rosa, now officially part of the front office team, greeted riders with genuine warmth, often recognized by those who had once seen her waiting in line, unsure of where she belonged. Together they created small shifts with big impact, like offering bottled water on hot days, installing a suggestion box riders could actually see answered, and holding quarterly community ride-alongs with leadership. Alec, though back in his regular role as CEO, made it a point to visit the depot in person each week, no fanfare, just presence. For the first time in years, he felt the company living its mission again, and as laughter echoed through the driver lounge, as drivers took an extra moment to greet passengers, Alec realized something simple but profound. A business rooted in service can only thrive when it leads with humanity. And at MetroLine, that new direction had just become the standard. The sun peeked through scattered clouds as a fresh day began at the Northside Depot, but something in the air felt different, lighter, purposeful. Rosa Alvarez arrived early, dressed in her crisp uniform shirt with a name badge that now read Customer Support Rosa. She took a deep breath before stepping through the doors, her heart steady, her confidence returning. Janelle greeted her at the front desk with a genuine smile, not just one of courtesy, but of respect. "Ready for your first official shift?" she asked. Rosa nodded. "I think I've been ready for a long time." Across the room, Curtis watched with quiet pride as Mr. Lin was helped onto a bus by a new recruit, this time with care, not haste. The depot, once cold and transactional, now buzzed with connection. Even small gestures, a joke shared between drivers, a cup of coffee left for the next shift, carried meaning. Alex stood at the edge of the platform, observing it all with calm satisfaction. He had returned to his title, but more importantly, he had reclaimed his mission. As a final touch, he walked over to Janelle, who was organizing a community bulletin board near the entrance. "You've come a long way," he said. She gave a half smile. "Still learning, but I finally get it now. This isn't just about getting people from point A to B." Alec nodded. "It's about how they feel on the way." That afternoon, a small ceremony was held at the depot's courtyard to unveil a new plaque on the wall, "Every Ride Matters." As Rosa stood beside her new team, Curtis raised a coffee cup in quiet salute, and Alec looked on with a full heart, knowing the road ahead was finally paved with the values he had always believed in. The story of MetroLine Transit teaches a powerful lesson about the importance of empathy in leadership and public service. At its core, it reminds us that efficiency and rules should never come at the cost of human dignity. Alec Donovan, the Undercover CEO, didn't just uncover poor behavior. He revealed a culture that had forgotten its purpose, to serve everyone, especially the most vulnerable. Through his quiet observation and firm but compassionate leadership, change was sparked not by punishment, but by second chances and accountability. Janelle's transformation shows that people can grow when given the opportunity to reflect, learn, and be mentored with patience. Curtis represents the often overlooked everyday hero, those who lead not with titles, but with consistent kindness. Rosa's journey from rejection to respect is a reminder that small acts of humanity can alter someone's path entirely. In the end, the story affirms that true leadership means stepping into the shoes of others, listening without judgment, and being brave enough to fix what's broken. When we choose compassion over convenience and connection over control, we create spaces, not just businesses, where everyone feels seen, valued, and empowered. That's how we build better systems and better people together.